Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation. My name is Andrea Susanto. I'm a student of Applied Linguistics and Technology in Iowa State University, a PhD student. And my presentation today is titled Ackerman's Theory for Designing an App for Speaking Fluency. So the reason why I like this theory is because there are some similarities between the theories that are proposed by the Ackerman's framework with the one that I also believe in, which is the associative cognitive creed. I will explain later on in my discussion part, but I'm gonna explain to you first how the theory in general relates to the overall mechanisms or user interface that I'm going to have. Okay. Right. So first of all, the Ackerman's theory it emphasizes on the ability performance relations that were sensitive to the consistency and complexity of the target task. So in this case, that is what's called declarative knowledge, what you know actually, like what you know, what's in your brain, and the procedural knowledge, how you produce it in practice, And in my field, in our field, we call it as a perception and production, and this is very much related to the basic idea of pronunciation teaching or speaking teaching, you call it. Okay. And there are three main factors that influence how individuals perform in their learning acquisition. They are different based on their cognition, which is their intelligence or some sort, their perceptual speed, how they access information, and the psychomotor, how they proceduralize their knowledge, what they know about the field, and how they react to the context or the tasks in this case. So this is the diagram that I took from the file from the journal article of the Ackerman and Gianciolo in 2000, and it is very much outlining what the theory is about. So when you see on the left hand side, that's the ability structure, and on the right hand side, which is the skill acquisition, is the phases that are formed by these different ability structures. And on the on the right hand side, the general ability, perceptual speed ability, and psychomotor ability is the further explanation about how each phase is undergone by learners. Okay, so according to the Ackerman's theory, human cognition is divided into three: figural, numerical, and verbal. I would perhaps focus more on the verbal, even though there might be any influence of the other two cognition, two kinds of intelligence in this case. And then the perceptual speed, which relates to the associative phase, how learners can access the information that he or she has learned previously, and the psychomotor, which is related to the autonomous phase. So how the learners can speak or how they can write, in this case, how they can pronounce words, how they can speak the target language as desired by the standard determined by their own learning outcomes in this case. So the relevances of this theory with mine, the first one is that the more accustomed a language learner is with natural speaking fluency, rates, which is native speakers, their perception, which I mean is the associative phase, the higher their production in their speaking fluency, which relates to the psychomotor. This what I mentioned as the perception and the production phase in the speaking, in the teaching of speaking. Okay. And the second relevance, the more accustomed a native speaker is with language learners' fluency rates, the better their perception of language learners' speaking fluency rates. So in the first point, I explained how language learners, like foreign language learners or target language learners, are exposed to the natural speaking rates of the native speakers. But on the second point, I try to look at the other way around, how the native speakers are accustomed to listening to more target language um, spoken by the non-native speakers, and how they can perceive others, which in this case non-native speakers languages, whether it is in a good sense or in a bad sense. And there's still limited research on how both groups improve their perception and production through certain exposure. So from these two viewpoints, either from the natural speaking uh, fluency level, and the non-natural, which is non-native speakers, there are still questions remaining in the research field. So I believe that my research will help answer some of these theories, or some of these questions. But there are challenges why this theory might be problematic. The first one is that the Ackerman's theory is said to be limited in studies for tasks that require complex and rapid motor responses. In this case, as I mentioned earlier, that language is very much fluid, and it requires a lot of recalls from the cognition, from the associative phase, and from the psychomotor phase. In this case, language will be one of the ultimate challenges of this theory, but let's see how it works later on. I haven't tried it yet, but I believe that this research is going to help answer this question: how limited is this theory um, in regard to language learning? The second challenge would be the rapid and accurate performances are not always guaranteed across contexts or tasks, as it is dependent upon complexity and constraints. So as I said earlier, the Ackerman theory is heavily bounded upon, is bounded with the complexity and the context of the tasks, and the individual differences. In this case, there will be dynamics that we are expecting to see, but there might be something that we can see across this dynamics. Perhaps there's a pattern, or there's a correlation, either positive or negative, or even there's no correlation at all. That might be a finding too, right? And the last challenge would be is general intelligence, which is verbal, numerical, and figural intelligence, and processing speed always supporting one another. The processing speed, which is the associative phase, are they always related to one another in a way that, in other words, is the smarter language learner is, the faster they assess the knowledge they have, or the lower intelligent person may recall the knowledge slower. So what can my research suggest about that? Okay, so the next bit. So in the discussion session, as I said earlier in the beginning, that the theory of the Ackermans is related or very much backed up by the theory by an expert in my field called, and his name is Nick Ellis, and he proposed the theory of associative cognitive creep, which consists of five stages: construction-based, rational, exemplar-driven, emergent, and dialectic. And I researched this when I was taking my master's degree, and it is very much uh, proven or evident across different Asian language learners learning English. Each phase of this can be developed into some practical features. So these five stages, construction-based, rational, exemplar-driven, emergent, and dialectic, can be developed into some practical features on the app that I'm going to develop that can help language learners keep up with the speaking fluency standard in English language assessment, in this case, TOEFL IBD or IELTS. Based on this framework, for the suprasegmental aspects, what I mean is like word stress, intonation, prominence, tone, things like that, can seem to fit in nicely. So whether it's not only fluency but also accuracy in the sense of suprasegmental aspects of pronunciation. next. And thank you so much. And thank you so much for listening to me. And thank you so much for listening to me. I'm Andreas. I'll see you in the class. Cheers. Thank you so much.